Marcus Williams pushed the hover cart down the long hallway of Nexus Prime's luxury residential sector. The metal wheels made soft clicking sounds on the polished floor. His delivery uniform was neat and clean, dark blue with the company logo on his chest. He had been working on this space station for 2 years now, delivering furniture and supplies to people from many different worlds. The hallway was wide and bright. Large windows showed the stars outside, tiny points of light in the endless black of space. Marcus had grown used to this view, but it still amazed him sometimes. He was so far from Earth, living among aliens and humans who had left their home planet behind. He stopped at door number 2847 and checked his tablet. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had ordered a custom bed frame made from earth oak wood. It was expensive, the kind of thing only scientists and diplomats could afford. Marcus pressed the door chime and waited. The door opened, and Marcus saw a woman with dark hair and kind brown eyes. She was probably in her 30s, wearing a simple, white lab coat over casual clothes. She smiled when she saw him. "You must be from the furniture company," she said. "I'm Elena Rodriguez." "Yes, ma'am, Marcus Williams, I have your bed delivery." He gestured to the large boxes on his cart. "Where would you like me to set it up?" "The bedroom is this way." Elena stepped aside to let him in. "I have to warn you, the space is a bit small. Station quarters aren't exactly spacious." Marcus wheeled the cart inside. The apartment was clean and organized, with books and scientific equipment arranged neatly on shelves. Through an open door, he could see the bedroom she mentioned. It was indeed small, but he had worked in tighter spaces before. "This shouldn't be a problem," he said. "I've assembled beds in cargo closets before." Elena laughed. "Really? Ship crews get creative with their sleeping arrangements," Marcus explained as he began unloading the boxes. "You learn to work with what you have." He carried the first box into the bedroom, and Elena followed. She watched as he unpacked the pieces, laying them out in a precise pattern on the floor. Marcus had done this hundreds of times, and his movements were efficient and practiced. "You make that look easy," Elena said. "Practice," Marcus replied, sorting screws and bolts into small containers. "Every bed is different, but they all follow the same basic rules. You just have to think through the steps." As he worked, Elena sat in a chair by the window. She asked him questions about his job, about life on the station. Marcus found himself talking more than usual. Most customers left him alone while he worked, but Elena seemed genuinely interested. "So you chose delivery work?" she asked. "On a space station?" Marcus fitted 2 pieces of the frame together, checking the alignment carefully. "I wanted to see different parts of the galaxy. This job lets me meet people from all over, humans and aliens both. Every day is different." "That's not what most people expect to hear," Elena said. "They think delivery work is boring." "Maybe on Earth," Marcus said, tightening a bolt. "But out here you never know what you're going to find. Last week I delivered a water recycling unit to a Corvin family. The week before that it was ceremonial weapons to a Catherian diplomat." "You've met Catherians?" Elena's voice changed, slightly, becoming more serious. "What are they like?" Marcus paused in his work. The Catherians were a warrior race, proud and strong. They had been causing problems on the station lately, making it clear they thought humans were weak and didn't belong in space. "Tough customers," he said finally. "They don't like humans much." "No, they don't," Elena agreed. "I work with them sometimes. My research involves studying alien biology to help improve relations between species. The Catherians are challenging." Marcus continued assembling the bed, fitting the headboard into place. The wood was beautiful, smooth and rich brown with visible grain patterns. It smelled like home, like the forests of Earth. "This is nice work," he said, running his hand along the surface. "Real wood is rare out here." "It cost me 3 months' salary," Elena admitted, "but I wanted something that reminded me of home, something real." Marcus understood. Life on a space station could feel artificial sometimes. All metal walls and recycled air. Having something natural, something that grew on Earth, made a difference. He worked steadily, connecting the side rails and checking each joint. Elena watched him, and he found himself being extra careful, making sure every detail was perfect. There was something about her attention that made him want to do his best work. "You're very methodical," she observed. "Everything has its place." "Has to be," Marcus said. "If you rush or skip steps, things fall apart later. Better to do it right the first time." As he worked, they talked about their lives. Elena told him about her research, how she studied different alien species to understand their biology and behavior. She had been on Nexus Prime for 6 months, working with the station's diplomatic corps. Marcus told her about growing up in Detroit, how he had always wanted to travel, but never imagined he would end up in space. His family thought he was crazy for leaving Earth, but he had found something out here that he couldn't find at home. The bed was nearly finished now. Marcus attached the final support beam and tested the stability, pressing down on different parts of the frame. It was solid and well built, exactly as it should be. "There," he said, stepping back to admire his work. "One custom bed fully assembled." Elena stood up and walked over to examine it. She pressed her hand against the headboard, feeling the smooth wood. "It's perfect," she said. "Thank you." Marcus began packing up his tools. "Just doing my job, ma'am." "Elena," she corrected, "and you did more than just your job. You cared about getting it right." As Marcus loaded his tools back onto the cart, Elena stood watching him. There was something in her expression that made him pause. She seemed to be thinking about something, weighing her words. "Marcus," she said finally, "can I tell you something?" He looked at her, waiting. "You're exactly my type, you know that." The words came out in a rush, as if she had surprised herself by saying them. Marcus stopped what he was doing. He looked at her face, saw the slight blush on her cheeks, the way she was biting her lower lip. He started, then stopped. He had not expected this. "I'm sorry," Elena said quickly. "That was forward of me. There's something about the way you work, the way you think through problems. It's attractive." Marcus felt something warm spreading through his chest. Elena was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she was smart and kind. In the time he had been working, he had found himself hoping the job would take longer, just so he could keep talking to her. "I think you're pretty amazing yourself," he said honestly. They stood there for a moment, looking at each other across the small bedroom. The bed between them seemed to represent something new, a possibility neither of them had expected when the day began. The next morning, Marcus woke up thinking about Elena. Her words from the day before kept playing in his mind. He had wanted to say more, to ask her to dinner maybe, but his work schedule had pulled him away to other deliveries. Now he wondered if he had missed his chance. He dressed in his work uniform and headed to the delivery depot. The station was coming to life around him. Humans hurried to their jobs alongside aliens of many different species. The Corvin moved in small groups, their gray skin and large eyes making them easy to spot. A few Veltar glided past, their tall, thin bodies moving with grace. At the depot, Marcus loaded his cart with the day's deliveries. His supervisor, Jake Martinez, handed him the tablet with addresses and delivery notes. "Got some deliveries in the diplomatic sector today," Jake said. "Be extra careful there. Word is the Catherians are getting restless again." Marcus nodded. The Catherians had been causing problems for months. They were a warrior race, tall and strong, with dark blue skin and sharp features. They believed strength was the most important quality in any being. To them, humans were weak and had no business living among the stars. Marcus's first delivery was to the science wing, where Elena worked. He told himself it was just a coincidence, but he had requested that route specifically. As he walked through the research labs, he hoped he might see her. He was delivering lab equipment to Dr. Kevin Brown, a biologist who worked down the hall from Elena. As Marcus set up the new microscope, he heard voices from the corridor. One voice was Elena's, the other was deeper, rougher. "Your research is pointless, human," the rough voice said. "You cannot understand what makes a true warrior. Your species is too soft, too weak." Marcus looked out into the hallway. Elena stood, facing a tall Catherian warrior. The alien was nearly 7 feet tall with broad shoulders and arms thick with muscle. His dark blue skin had scars that marked him as an experienced fighter. This was Commander Zeth Ka, the Catherian military representative on the station. My research helps all species understand each other better, Elena said calmly. That includes yours, Commander. We do not need understanding from weaklings, Zeth Ka replied. Humans should not be here. This station should be for real warriors only. Other people in the hallway had stopped to watch. Some humans looked scared. A few Corvin workers whispered among themselves. Even the usually calm Veltar seemed concerned. Marcus finished setting up the microscope quickly. He walked out into the hallway, positioning himself near Elena. He didn't say anything, just stood there with his delivery cart. Zeth Ka noticed him immediately. The Catherian's eyes narrowed as he looked Marcus up and down. Another weak human, Zeth Ka said with disgust. This one delivers boxes like a servant. Is this what your species calls strength? Marcus met the alien's gaze steadily. I do my job. That's enough for me. Your job? Zeth Ka laughed, a harsh sound. Moving furniture? Any child could do such work. Maybe in your culture, Marcus said. In mine, all honest work has value. Elena stepped closer to Marcus. Marcus is right. Every person on this station contributes something important. You defend this delivery boy? Zeth Ka asked Elena. This proves how weak humans are. You choose the weakest among you to protect. I choose to stand with people who show character, Elena said firmly. Marcus does his work with skill and care. He treats everyone with respect. That shows real strength. Several humans in the hallway nodded in agreement. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest at Elena's words, but he also worried. Making an enemy of the Catherians was dangerous. Zeth Ka's face darkened with anger. You will regret those words, human. Your species will learn its place. The Catherian turned and walked away, his heavy boots echoing on the floor. The crowd in the hallway began to scatter, people hurrying back to their work. Elena turned to Marcus. Are you okay? I'm fine, Marcus said. But you shouldn't have done that. The Catherians have influence here. Someone had to speak up, Elena replied. Zeth Ka has been getting worse lately. He insults humans every chance he gets. As they talked, Captain Lisa Chen approached them. She was the station administrator, a stern woman in her 40s who had been running Nexus Prime for 5 years. Her expression was serious. I saw what happened, Captain Chen said quietly. Elena, I appreciate you standing up for Marcus, but this could cause problems. What kind of problems? Elena asked. The Catherians are threatening to withdraw from the station, Captain Chen explained. They provide security services and military protection. Without them, we're vulnerable to pirates and raiders. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. He hadn't meant to cause trouble for the whole station. It's not your fault, Captain Chen said, reading his expression. Zeth Ka has been looking for an excuse to cause problems, but we need to be careful now. Over the next few hours, word of the confrontation spread throughout the station. Marcus continued his deliveries, but everywhere he went, people were talking about it. Some humans thanked him for standing up to the Catherian. Others whispered that he should have stayed quiet. The alien species had mixed reactions too. The Corvin seemed worried about conflict between humans and Catherians. The Veltar observed everything with their usual calm patience. A few species, that Marcus didn't recognize, well watched him with new interest. By afternoon, things got worse. Zeth Ka and several other Catherian warriors began patrolling the station's common areas. They didn't break any rules, but they made their presence known. Whenever they saw humans, they made comments about weakness and unworthiness. Marcus was delivering supplies to a restaurant when 3 Catherian warriors entered. They ordered food but spent most of their time staring at the human customers. Their presence made everyone uncomfortable. This is not right, said the restaurant owner, a human woman named Carol Stevens. They're trying to intimidate us. Marcus nodded. He had seen this behavior before, back on Earth. Some people used fear to control others. The Catherians were doing the same thing here. As Marcus left the restaurant, one of the Catherian warriors followed him. The alien walked just behind Marcus as he pushed his delivery cart down the corridor. Other people moved out of the way, not wanting to get involved. Marcus stopped at his next delivery address. The Catherian warrior stopped too, standing with his arms crossed. "You are the delivery human," the warrior said. "The one who thinks he is strong." "I'm just doing my job," Marcus replied. "Your job makes you weak. Real warriors do not serve others." Marcus looked at the alien. "In my culture, serving others is an honor. It takes strength to put other people's needs first." The Catherian warrior laughed. "Your culture makes no sense. Weakness should not be celebrated." "Maybe we just define strength differently," Marcus said. He continued with his delivery, ignoring the warrior's presence, but he could feel other people watching. Some humans looked scared, others seemed impressed that Marcus wasn't backing down. That evening, Marcus met Elena at a small cafe in the civilian section. She had asked him to dinner through a message, and he had accepted immediately. "I've been thinking about what happened today," Elena said as they sat down with their food. "Me too," Marcus replied. "I hope I didn't make things worse for you." "You didn't. But I think this is bigger than just one confrontation. Szeth Ka is testing us. He wants to see how humans react under pressure." Marcus took a bite of his dinner, thinking, "What do you think he's really after?" "I think he wants humans off the station entirely," Elena said. "He's been building up to this for months. Today just gave him an excuse." As they talked, Marcus noticed other patrons in the cafe watching them. Word was spreading that they were the humans who had stood up to the Catherians. Some people nodded approvingly, others looked worried. "Whatever happens," Elena said, reaching across the table to touch Marcus's hand, "I'm glad we met." Marcus smiled. Despite all the problems with the Catherians, despite the uncertain future, he felt the same way. Elena was brave and smart, and she believed in him. That made everything else seem manageable. But as they left the cafe together, Marcus saw Catherian warriors watching from across the plaza. Their presence was a reminder that the conflict was far from over. 3 days passed after the confrontation in the science wing. Marcus continued his delivery work, but the atmosphere on the station had changed. Catherian warriors seemed to be everywhere, watching humans with cold eyes. Many humans started avoiding the common areas where the aliens gathered. Marcus was delivering office supplies to the diplomatic section when he heard shouting from the main plaza. He quickly finished his work and hurried toward the sound. A crowd had gathered in the central area of the station, a large open space with shops and restaurants around the edges. In the center of the plaza stood Commander Szeth Ka. The tall Catherian warrior was speaking loudly, his voice carrying across the space. Around him stood 6 other Catherian warriors, all armed and in full battle gear. "Humans do not belong among the stars," Szeth Ka declared. "They are weak. They serve others instead of conquering. They solve problems with words instead of strength." Marcus pushed through the crowd to get closer. He could see Captain Chen standing near the front, her face tight with worry. Elena was there too, along with many other humans and aliens who lived on the station. "For too long we have allowed these weaklings to pretend they are equals," Szeth Ka continued. "Today that ends. I issue a formal challenge under the ancient laws of the Catherian Empire." A murmur went through the crowd. Marcus had heard of Catherian challenge laws but didn't know the details. From the worried expressions around him, it wasn't good news. "The human who thinks he is strong," Szeth Ka said, pointing directly at Marcus, "will face trials to prove his worth. If he fails, all humans must leave this station. If somehow he succeeds, we will acknowledge human presence here." Marcus felt his heart racing. Every eye in the plaza was now on him. He hadn't asked for this, but Szeth Ka had made it personal. Captain Chen stepped forward. "Commander, this is highly irregular. The station operates under neutral territory agreements. The challenge is within our rights," Szeth Ka replied. "Ancient law allows it. Your human can refuse, but then all humans are proven weak and must leave immediately. Marcus looked around at the faces watching him. Some humans looked scared. Others seemed hopeful. The alien species in the crowd watched with great interest. He realized that this wasn't just about him anymore. Everyone on the station would be affected by his decision. Elena pushed through the crowd to reach him. Marcus, you don't have to do this. There might be another way. What other way? Marcus asked quietly. If I refuse, humans get kicked off the station anyway. The trials are dangerous, Elena said. Catherians designed them to be nearly impossible for other species. Marcus looked at Zethka, who was waiting with a cold smile on his face. The Catherian commander clearly expected him to refuse, to prove that humans were cowards. I accept the challenge, Marcus said loudly. The crowd stirred with surprise. Several humans looked shocked. The Catherians seemed pleased, as if Marcus had just walked into a trap. Excellent, Zethka said. The trials will begin in 3 days. You will face tests of strength, endurance, combat, and wisdom. Fail any trial and all humans leave the station forever. As the crowd began to break up, Elena grabbed Marcus's arm. What have you done? What I had to do, Marcus replied. Someone had to stand up to them. Captain Chen approached them. Marcus, I appreciate your courage, but this is bigger than just you now. Do you understand what you've committed to? Not entirely, Marcus admitted. But I couldn't let them force humans off the station without a fight. The Catherian trials are legendary, Captain Chen explained. They're designed to showcase everything Catherians value most: physical strength, fighting ability, endurance. These aren't human strengths. As they talked, other species began approaching them. A group of Corvin workers came first. Their leader, a female named Zix9, spoke in her high musical voice. Human, Marcus, she said. The Corvin have watched your work. You solve problems well. You are kind to all species. We hope you succeed. Next came several Veltar. Their tall, graceful leader glided forward. The Veltar have observed human behavior for many cycles. Your species shows interesting traits. We will watch your trials with great interest. Even some species Marcus didn't know well approached to offer encouragement. It seemed like everyone on the station had an opinion about the challenge. Over. The next 2 days, word spread throughout Nexus Prime. Humans from every section of the station came to find Marcus. Some offered advice. Others just wanted to shake his hand. A few brought gifts, food, or good luck charms from Earth. Elena spent most of her time with Marcus, helping him prepare. She used her scientific knowledge to analyze what the trials might involve. Catherians value physical strength above everything, she explained as they sat in her apartment. The first trial will probably test how much you can lift or carry. I'm strong enough, Marcus said, but not as strong as a Catherian warrior. That's what worries me. Elena pulled up data on her computer. I've been studying Catherian physiology. Their muscle density is nearly twice that of humans. They're built for power. Marcus nodded. He had seen Catherian warriors in action. They could lift things that would take 3 humans to move. What about the other trials? He asked. Endurance will probably involve running or sustained physical activity. Combat is obvious. The wisdom trial is the hardest to predict. Catherians might test military strategy or problem-solving under pressure. They spent hours going through possibilities. Elena showed Marcus videos of Catherian training exercises. The aliens moved with incredible speed and power. Their combat techniques focused on overwhelming opponents quickly. I can't fight like that, Marcus said after watching a particularly brutal sparring session. You don't have to, Elena replied. Humans have advantages too. We're adaptable. We think differently. We don't give up easily. Is that enough? Elena took his hand. It has to be. But Marcus, there's something else I need to tell you. What? I've been analyzing the data from my research. Humans have biological advantages that other species don't recognize. Our endurance is exceptional. Our problem-solving abilities are unique. Our capacity to work with other species is unmatched. Marcus felt a spark of hope. You think that might matter? I think the Cutherians are so focused on physical strength that they miss everything else that makes humans special. The night before the trials, Marcus couldn't sleep. He walked to the observation deck, a large area with windows overlooking space. The stars stretched out endlessly, tiny points of light in the darkness. Elena found him there. Couldn't sleep, either. Too much thinking, Marcus said. Tomorrow changes everything. Whatever happens, I want you to know something, Elena said. You're not just fighting for humans on this station. You're showing everyone what humans are really capable of. They stood together looking out at the stars. Marcus thought about his journey from Earth, about the delivery job that had brought him here, about meeting Elena. None of it had been planned, but somehow it all led to this moment. Elena, he said, if something happens to me tomorrow— Nothing's going to happen, she interrupted. You're going to show those Cutherians what human determination looks like. The next morning, the main plaza was packed. Humans, Cutherians, and aliens from dozens of species had gathered to watch. Marcus stood in the center, wearing simple workout clothes. Across from him, Zethka waited in full ceremonial armor. The trials begin now, Zethka announced. First, we test strength. Several Cutherian warriors brought out a massive weight, a metal bar loaded with plates that looked impossibly heavy. Zethka lifted it over his head with apparent ease, holding it there for several seconds before setting it down. Your turn, human, he said with a cold smile. Marcus approached the weight. Up close it looked even heavier. The metal bar was thick, and the plates on either end were enormous. He could hear murmurs from the crowd, some encouraging, others doubtful. He gripped the bar and pulled. The weight barely moved. He tried again, putting all his strength into it. The bar rose a few inches off the ground before he had to let it drop. Zethka laughed. As expected, humans are weak. But Marcus wasn't done. He looked at the weight, thinking. Then he walked around it, examining it from different angles. The crowd watched with confusion. I can't lift this the way you did, Marcus said to Zethka. But maybe there's another way. He positioned himself carefully, then began rolling the weight across the plaza. It was still incredibly heavy, but by using leverage and momentum, he managed to move it the same distance Zethka had lifted it. The crowd stirred with interest. A few aliens nodded approvingly. Even some Cutherians looked surprised. Clever, Zethka admitted grudgingly. But cleverness will not help you in the next trial. The crowd in the plaza buzzed with excitement after Marcus found a way to move the massive weight. Some humans looked hopeful for the first time since the challenge began. The alien species watched with new interest, whispering among themselves. Commander, Zethka's expression had hardened. He clearly hadn't expected Marcus to find any solution to the strength test. But the Cutherian commander quickly recovered his composure. The second trial tests speed, Zethka announced. A warrior must be swift in battle. The Cutherians had set up a running course around the plaza. It included obstacles to jump over, barriers to crawl under, and tight turns that required quick reflexes. The course was about half a mile long and looked challenging even for someone in excellent shape. Zethka stepped to the starting line. At a signal from another Cutherian, he began running. The alien warrior moved with incredible speed, his long legs covering ground quickly. He leaped over obstacles like they weren't there and slid under barriers without slowing down. When he finished, the timer showed an impressive time. Your turn, human, Zethka said, barely breathing hard. Marcus walked to the starting line. He knew he couldn't match the Cutherian's speed, but he had learned something from the strength trial. Sometimes the obvious approach wasn't the only approach. The signal came and Marcus began running. He started at a steady pace, not trying to sprint like Zethka had done. The crowd seemed confused by his strategy. Several humans called out encouragement, but their voices sounded worried. At the first obstacle, a high barrier to jump over, Marcus saw his chance. Instead of jumping straight up like Zethka had done, he used his hands to vault over, conserving energy. At the crawling section, he rolled sideways instead of crawling on his belly, moving faster and staying cleaner. Marcus continued at his steady pace, finding efficient ways around each obstacle. He wasn't as fast as Zeth-Ka overall, but he was maintaining his energy better. By the halfway point, he was still running strong while showing no signs of fatigue. Elena watched from the crowd, her scientific mind analyzing what she saw. She began to understand Marcus's strategy. He was running like a human, not trying to be a Catherian. As Marcus approached the final section of the course, something interesting happened. His steady pace meant he had plenty of energy left. He began running faster, his breathing still controlled and even. The crowd noticed the change, and excitement built. Marcus crossed the finish line with a time that was slower than Zeth-Ka's, but not by much. More importantly, he looked like he could run the course again immediately. Zeth-Ka, despite his superior time, was breathing harder and showed signs of fatigue. "Interesting," said Zix9, the Corvin leader. "The human runs like he could continue for much longer." A Veltar observer nodded its tall head. "Human endurance patterns are different from Catherian burst patterns. This is worth studying." Zeth-Ka frowned at the comments from the other species. "Speed is what matters in battle, not endurance." "That depends on the battle," Marcus said quietly, but loud enough for many to hear. The third trial was combat, and Marcus knew this would be the hardest test. Catherians were natural warriors trained from childhood in fighting techniques. Marcus had learned some basic self-defense on Earth, but nothing that could match a professional soldier. "Combat reveals the true nature of a warrior," Zeth-Ka announced. "This trial will use training weapons, but the contest is real." The Catherians brought out padded weapons that looked like clubs and swords. They also provided light armor for both fighters. Marcus put on the protective gear, knowing it wouldn't help much against Zeth-Ka's superior strength and training. The crowd formed a large circle around the fighters. Marcus could see Elena in the front row, her face tight with worry. Captain Chen stood nearby, ready to stop the fight if it went too far. Zeth-Ka moved to the center of the circle, holding a sword-like training weapon. He moved with the fluid grace of an experienced fighter, the weapon seeming like a natural extension of his arm. Marcus picked up a club-style weapon, testing its weight and balance. It felt awkward in his hands, compared to the confident way Zeth-Ka handled his sword. "Begin," called out another Catherian warrior. Zeth-Ka attacked immediately, his sword cutting through the air toward Marcus's head. Marcus barely got his club up in time to block the strike. The impact sent shockwaves through his arms and nearly knocked him off balance. The Catherian pressed his attack, his sword moving in complex patterns that Marcus couldn't follow. All Marcus could do was try to block and dodge, staying just out of reach of the deadly blade. The crowd watched tensely as Zeth-Ka drove Marcus backward around the circle. It looked like the combat trial would end quickly, with the human clearly outmatched. But as the fight continued, something began to change. Zeth-Ka's attacks, while still dangerous, were coming slightly slower. The Catherian warrior was used to quick victories, overwhelming opponents with superior strength and skill. He wasn't used to opponents who could absorb punishment and keep fighting. Marcus, meanwhile, was learning. Each attack taught him something about Zeth-Ka's fighting style. The Catherian favored overhead strikes and preferred to attack from the right side. Marcus began to anticipate the patterns, making his blocks more effective. Elena watched with growing understanding. "He's adapting," she said to Captain Chen. "Marcus is learning how to fight this opponent specifically." After several minutes of combat, both fighters were breathing hard. But while Zeth-Ka looked frustrated by his inability to finish the fight quickly, Marcus looked determined. He had taken several hits but kept coming back. Marcus began to change his strategy. Instead of just defending, he started making small attacks of his own. Nothing fancy, just simple strikes when Zeth-Ka left openings. The Catherian easily blocked these attacks, but they forced him to think about defense as well as offense. The fight continued for nearly 15 minutes, much longer than anyone had expected. Zeth-Ka was clearly the superior fighter, landing more hits and controlling most of the action. But Marcus had not been defeated. He was still standing, still fighting, still learning. Finally, Zethka managed to land a solid hit that sent Marcus to the ground. The human rolled away from a follow-up attack and came back to his feet, but the point had been made. The Catherian was the better warrior. "Enough," Zethka called out, lowering his weapon. "The human fights with heart, but lacks true warrior skill." Marcus lowered his club, breathing hard but still ready to continue if needed. The crowd was silent, uncertain how to interpret what they had seen. "However," Zethka continued, his voice thoughtful, "the human showed persistence. He adapted during battle. These are not weak qualities." It was the first time the Catherian commander had said anything positive about human abilities. The crowd stirred with interest at this admission. "The final trial will test wisdom," Zethka announced. "We will see if human cleverness can substitute for true strength." As the fighters removed their armor, Elena managed to reach Marcus's side. She checked him for injuries while speaking quietly. "You did better than anyone expected," she said. "You lasted 15 minutes against a Catherian warrior. That's remarkable." "I lost," Marcus pointed out. "You survived," Elena corrected. "And you made him work for the victory. That sent a message to everyone watching." Marcus looked around at the crowd. The other species were definitely viewing him differently now. Even some of the Catherian warriors seemed less dismissive than before. "What do you think the wisdom trial will be?" Marcus asked. "I don't know," Elena admitted. "But whatever it is, remember what you've shown already. Humans find ways to solve problems. We adapt. We don't give up." As they prepared for the final trial, Marcus reflected on what had happened so far. He had lost 2 of the 3 trials by Catherian standards, but he had also shown that humans had their own strengths. The question now was whether that would be enough to save the human presence. On Nexus Prime, the 4th trial would determine everything. The plaza fell quiet as everyone waited for the final trial. Marcus stood in the center, tired from the combat test, but still ready to continue. His uniform was torn, and he had bruises on his arms, but his eyes remained determined. Commander Zethka walked to a table where other Catherian warriors had set up some kind of equipment. It looked like a computer terminal connected to several screens. The display showed what appeared to be a map of the station. "The wisdom trial tests a warrior's ability to lead and make decisions under pressure," Zethka announced. "You will face a crisis that threatens this station. Your choices will determine if you have the mind of a true leader." Marcus approached the terminal. The screen showed Nexus Prime from above, with different sections marked in various colors. Red areas seemed to indicate problems or damage. Yellow areas showed caution zones. Green areas appeared normal. "This is a simulation," Zethka explained. "The station is under attack by space pirates. Multiple systems are failing. You have limited resources and must decide how to save the station and its people." Marcus studied the display. He could see that the pirates had damaged the main power grid. The life support systems were failing in several sections, and there were fires in the cargo bays. Emergency alerts were flashing across multiple screens. "You have 30 minutes, Zethka said. "Begin." Marcus took a deep breath and started analyzing the situation. The first thing he noticed was that the problems were all connected. The power failure had caused the life support issues, and the fires were spreading because the safety systems were offline. He began by prioritizing the most immediate threats. People could survive without power for a while, but they needed air to breathe. He directed emergency teams to the life support systems first, ordering them to switch to backup power in the affected sections. Elena watched from the crowd, her scientific mind following Marcus's logic. She could see that he was thinking systematically, treating each problem as part of a larger system rather than separate issues. As Marcus worked, more problems appeared on the screen. The simulation was designed to overwhelm the person taking the test, forcing them to make quick decisions without complete information. "Pirates are boarding the station," announced one of the Catherian operators. "Security teams are requesting orders." Marcus looked at the tactical display. The pirates had entered through the damaged cargo bay and were moving toward the main computer core. If they reached it, they could take control of the entire station. Most military leaders would send all available security forces to fight the pirates directly. But Marcus had learned something from his delivery work. He knew the station's layout better than most people. Instead of sending security teams to the computer core, Marcus directed them to seal off the corridors leading to that area. Then he ordered the engineering teams to shut down the lifts and escalators in that section. The pirates would be trapped in a small area with no way to reach their objective. "Interesting strategy," murmured Zix-9 from the crowd. "The human thinks like an engineer, not a warrior." The simulation continued to present new challenges. A medical emergency required evacuation of the hospital wing. Food supplies were running low because the cargo bay fires had destroyed several storage areas. Some alien species were demanding immediate transport off the station. Marcus handled each crisis by thinking about connections and resources. When the hospital needed evacuation, he didn't just move patients to another medical facility. He realized that Elena's research lab had medical equipment that could be quickly converted to treat patients. He sent the injured there instead. For the food shortage, Marcus looked at the station's recycling systems. The Corvin workers had advanced recycling technology that could process damaged food supplies and make them safe to eat. He put them in charge of emergency food distribution. When alien species demanded transport, Marcus didn't argue with them or try to convince them to stay. Instead, he organized the evacuation in a way that helped solve other problems. He assigned the departing aliens to carry supplies to damaged sections of the station as they made their way to the docking bays. Elena began to see the pattern in Marcus's decisions. He wasn't just solving individual problems, he was turning every challenge into an opportunity to make the whole station work better. "The human is using collaborative problem solving," she whispered to Captain Chen. "He's not trying to control everything himself. He's organizing everyone to help each other." 20 minutes into the simulation, something unexpected happened. The various solutions Marcus had implemented began working together in ways that even he hadn't planned. The Corvin recycling teams found more efficient ways to repair the power systems. The medical staff in Elena's lab developed better treatment methods by working with her research equipment. The security teams, instead of fighting pirates, were helping coordinate evacuations and repairs. The Catherian warriors operating the simulation looked confused. The crisis was being resolved, but not in any way they had anticipated. Their simulation was designed to test individual leadership and decision-making. They hadn't expected someone to turn it into a community effort. "This is not how the trial is supposed to work," one of the Catherian operators said to Zethka. "Let it continue," Zethka replied, his eyes fixed on the display. "I want to see where this leads." With 5 minutes left in the simulation, the crisis was almost completely resolved. The fires were out. Life support was restored, the pirates were captured, and the station was functioning better than it had before the attack began. But then the simulation presented one final challenge. A massive explosion rocked the station's central core. All the previous repairs were threatened, and evacuation seemed like the only option. Marcus stared at the display. This was clearly meant to be the impossible choice, the moment where he would have to decide who to save and who to sacrifice. It was designed to show that even the best leader couldn't save everyone. Instead, Marcus did something that surprised everyone in the plaza. He turned away from the terminal and walked toward the crowd. "I need help," he said loudly. "This isn't a job for one person." He pointed to Elena. "I need your scientific expertise to analyze the explosion damage." He gestured to Zix-9. "The Corvin know engineering systems better than anyone." He looked at the Veltar representatives. "Your people understand energy flows and can predict cascade failures." Even more surprising, Marcus turned to some of the Catherian warriors in the crowd. "Your security knowledge could help us find safe evacuation routes." The crowd stirred with confusion. This wasn't how the trial was supposed to work. The wisdom test was meant to be completed by one person, proving their individual leadership abilities. But Elena stepped forward without hesitation. Then Zix-9 joined her. The Veltar representatives glided over to the terminal. Even a few younger Catherian, Warriors moved closer, curious about this unusual approach. Together, the group analyzed the final crisis. Elena provided scientific analysis of the explosion. The Corvin suggested engineering solutions. The Veltar predicted how the damage would spread. The Catherians identified the safest evacuation routes. Marcus coordinated their efforts, turning individual expertise into collaborative solutions. Within minutes, they had developed a plan that would save the station and everyone on it. The simulation ended with complete success. Every person on the station was safe, all systems were restored, and the pirates were captured. But more importantly, the different species had worked together in ways they never had before. The plaza was silent as everyone processed what had just happened. The Catherian operators looked at their equipment in confusion. Their simulation had been designed to force difficult choices and demonstrate individual leadership. Instead, it had become a demonstration of cooperative problem-solving. Commander Zeth Ka stood in the center of the plaza, his expression unreadable. The wisdom trial was over, but its results were unlike anything the Catherians had expected. Explain. Your strategy, human, Zeth Ka said finally. Marcus looked around at all the people who had helped him. In my culture, the strongest leaders are the ones who make everyone around them stronger. Real wisdom isn't knowing all the answers yourself. It's knowing how to find the people who do know the answers and bringing them together. The crowd began to murmur as people discussed what they had witnessed. It was clear that something important had just happened, but no one was quite sure what it meant for the challenge or for the future of humans on Nexus Prime. Commander Zeth Ka stood in the center of the plaza for a long moment, looking at Marcus and then at all the people who had helped with the wisdom trial. The other Catherian warriors waited for his judgment, their faces showing confusion and uncertainty. The crowd held its breath. Everything depended on what the Catherian commander would say next. If he declared Marcus had failed, all humans would have to leave Nexus Prime. If he accepted the results, it would change everything. You did not complete the trial as intended, Zeth Ka said finally. His voice carried across the silent plaza. A warrior is supposed to lead alone, to make hard decisions without help from others. Marcus felt his heart sink. It sounded like the Catherian was rejecting his approach. Around the plaza, humans looked worried and defeated. However, Zeth Ka continued, raising his voice, the results speak for themselves. Your method saved more lives and solved more problems than any individual could have managed alone. The crowd stirred with new hope. Elena stepped closer to Marcus, reaching for his hand. Zeth Ka walked slowly around the group that had worked on the final simulation. He studied each person carefully, as if seeing them for the first time. For cycles, we Catherians have believed that strength comes from individual power, the commander said. We thought leadership meant commanding others to follow our will. Today, this human has shown us a different kind of strength. One of the younger Catherian warriors stepped forward. Commander, are you saying the human passed the trial? I am saying more than that, Zeth Ka replied. I am saying that perhaps we have been wrong about what makes a true warrior. The plaza erupted in whispers and discussions as people tried to understand what this meant. Captain Chen moved closer to the center, ready to maintain order if needed. Zeth Ka raised his hand for silence. Marcus Williams, you have shown courage in accepting this challenge. You have shown persistence in the face of superior force. You have shown wisdom in bringing others together for the common good. These are the qualities of a worthy leader. Marcus could hardly believe what he was hearing. Does this mean? It means humans have earned their place on this station, Zeth Ka declared. More than that, it means the Catherian Empire has much to learn from human ways of thinking. The crowd exploded in cheers. Humans hugged each other and shouted with relief. The other alien species seemed pleased as well, clapping and making sounds of approval in their various languages. Elena threw her arms around Marcus, kissing him in front of everyone. You did it, she said. You actually did it. As the celebration continued around them, Zeth Ka approached Marcus directly. I owe you an apology, human. I judged your species by our standards instead of trying to understand your true strengths. We all make mistakes, Marcus replied. What matters is learning from them. Indeed. Zethka extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. I would be honored to learn more about human methods of problem-solving. Over the following days, life on Nexus Prime began to change in remarkable ways. The collaboration that had started during the Wisdom trial continued as different species worked together on various projects around the station. The Corvin engineering teams began sharing their recycling technology with human environmental specialists. The Veltar started collaborative research projects with scientists like Elena. Even the Kitherians began participating in joint training exercises that combined their warrior skills with human tactical thinking. Marcus found himself busier than ever, but in a good way. In addition to his delivery work, he was now consulted on logistics and problem-solving throughout the station. Captain Chen officially appointed him as the Human-Alien Relations Coordinator, a new position created specifically for him. I never imagined a furniture delivery would lead to this, Marcus told Elena one evening as they had dinner together in her apartment. The custom bed he had delivered weeks ago stood in the bedroom nearby, a reminder of how their relationship had begun. Sometimes the most important changes start with simple moments, Elena replied. A conversation during a delivery, someone standing up to a bully, small actions that grow into something bigger. Their relationship had grown stronger through all the challenges. Elena's scientific work was now more important than ever, as she helped different species understand each other's biology and behavior. Marcus's practical experience with the station systems made him valuable for planning and coordination. A month after the trials, Captain Chen called a meeting of all department heads. The conference room was crowded with humans and aliens working together on various projects. I have an announcement, Captain Chen said. The Galactic Council has decided to make Nexus Prime the official center for interspecies cooperation research. We're going to be hosting delegates from over 50 different worlds. The room buzzed with excitement. This was a huge honor for the station and would bring new opportunities for everyone. We're going to need new facilities, new programs, and new ways of managing such a diverse population, Captain Chen continued. Marcus, I'm putting you in charge of the coordination effort. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the responsibility but also excited. I'll need help from everyone, he said, looking around the room. This isn't something any one person can handle alone. That's exactly the approach we need, Captain Chen agreed. The human way of bringing people together. After the meeting, Marcus and Elena walked through the station's main corridors. The changes were already visible everywhere. Mixed groups of humans and aliens worked together on various projects. Children from different species played together in the recreation areas. The restaurant served food from dozens of worlds. Look at that, Elena said, pointing to a group near one of the shops. A Kitherian warrior was showing human children some basic self-defense moves while their parents watched and laughed. It was a scene that would have been impossible just weeks before. Zethka was right, Marcus said. We all had things to learn from each other. As they walked, they passed the delivery depot where Marcus still worked part-time. Jake Martinez was training a young Corvin in proper lifting techniques, while a Veltar observed and took notes for efficiency improvements. Are you happy with how everything turned out? Elena asked. Marcus considered the question. His life had changed dramatically from the simple delivery worker he had been. He now had responsibilities he had never imagined, and a relationship that meant everything to him. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, he said finally, doing work that matters with someone I love in a place where different kinds of people can come together. Elena smiled and took his hand. You know what you said when we first met, about wanting to see different parts of the galaxy and meet diverse people? Yeah, I think you found something even better. You found a way to bring the galaxy together. That evening, Marcus made his final delivery of the day. It was a gift from the Kitherian delegation to the human scientific team, a gesture of friendship and respect. As he assembled the ornate display case in Elena's new expanded laboratory, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. It had started with a simple bed delivery and a woman who saw something special in him. It had led through conflict and challenge to understanding and cooperation. Most importantly, it had shown that different kinds of strength could work together to accomplish more than any single approach could achieve alone. As he finished the assembly, Elena came up behind him and put her arms around his waist. "You know," she said, echoing her words from that first day, "you really are exactly my type." Marcus turned in her arms and kissed her, surrounded by the tools and equipment that represented the new future they were building together. Outside the laboratory windows, the stars stretched endlessly, full of possibilities for what humans and their alien friends might accomplish among them. The delivery worker had become a bridge between worlds. The scientist had found both love and purpose. And on Nexus Prime, the dream of true interspecies cooperation was becoming reality, one small act of understanding at a time.